Yes, Thomas. This is it. You've been around for close to 30 years following African tourism and the rest of them. I'm not talking of your days working with the first business that took you to America, going through your profile. So you know the history of the United Nations World Tourism Organization better than most people in the industry. However, for historical purposes or facts, I was a privileged student to stumble on somebody who actually proposed the formation of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, as then known as World Tourism Organization, in Acapulco, in Mexico, in 1970. Wow. You know, then you know the precursor body was the International Union of Official Travel Organization that was based in France at that time.
Right.
And a lot of Africans who joined the African National Tourism Agencies at that time, they were very few in number. Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Ethiopia, and there were very few, from the records I have. So they were not comfortable with UNWTO, as it was then called, and at their meeting in Mexico. So the Africans, through the African Travel Commission, which incidentally part of today, decided that, look, for us to get the kind of support we need from our government to allow us to also always participate, we want us to restructure the UNWTO to reflect the international aspect of his operation. And they said, so how do we go about it? So the members that were there present decided to vote that the name should be changed. And at that time, the name World Tourism Organization came up. And then, you know, it was not predetermined as part of the agenda of the meeting. This came under other business issues. And they said, well, how do we change the name? Do we have a lawyer in the house who can help us put a document together to reflect that we have agreed, and for so reason we vote on it? And the only lawyer that was present was a Nigerian lawyer. And that started in 1970. So his name is Odubayo. He was a staff of the Ministry of Industry and Commerce at that time in 1970. So he drafted a document which was read out to all the members that were present. Lebanon was active, and a few of the Southern American, Southern, and Asian countries. So it was agreed that the name UNWTO should be jettisoned for World Tourism Organization. And by around 2 a.m. in the morning, in Acapulco, in Mexico, it was voted upon that the name should be changed from UNWTO to World Tourism Organization.
Wow.
And it was unanimously adopted. And that was the story and the history of the World Tourism Organization that we have today.
I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
Yes, I have the document, the minute of meetings of UNWTO that I will forward to you.
Perfect. I did not know that. It's all new to me, but you've been in that part of the business a lot longer. I started in the travel business in 1978, but I was more in the practical part. I wasn't involved in organizations. Actually, my first job was in Morocco, in Africa.
Wow.
I was a tour guide, not really a tour guide, but I sold land arrangements on a cruise ship for Morocco. And I got to go on the tours to Marrakesh and Tangier and Agadir. So that was my very first job, I remember. So I didn't have any worries with World Tourism Organization. I didn't know less at the time.
So that was how the World Tourism Organization was created.
Right, fascinating.
And when it was created by 1971, 72, again, at the World Tourism Organization General Assembly meeting in Ankara in Turkey, the same chief executive of the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, who was championing all these reforms within the UN, now UNWTO structure, was that, look, we don't have any special day that we celebrate in tourism worldwide. Why not commemorate every year September 27 being the date that the name was changed from UNWTO to World Tourism Organization, big celebration and commemorated as World Tourism Day.
Right.
This was also at the behest of the African Travel Commission, who came on, because then Atibi, then as it was known, he was the head of the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, now as it's known, that the date should be commemorated worldwide as World Tourism Day. And in Turkey, eventually it was taken in and the members voted on it and they agreed until 1980 that the first World Tourism Day was organized worldwide. So the idea is to commemorate the achievement and look at what are the necessary adjustments that need to be made. And that was how the World Tourism Day celebration came up.
Wow.
You know, I went to meet with the man who himself was a journalist in the 50s and early 60s. He was a correspondent with the Reuters news agency in the 50s.
Right.
And he was working at the Fleet Street in London. So he knew some of the top world journalists in the 50s and he's a Nigerian. Fascinating enough, the man has a degree in mathematics and English. So he was a young journalist and he was very famous around Africa and among his peers in Europe. So that was how the World Tourism Day celebration came up. So I have all these documents. So when I came in and he told me all these stories, I didn't quite believe the stories because there were no evidence, document to suggest that these things were real. It was just his words and me being told the stories. Even the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, the National Tourism Agency don't have any of the documents. So what I did was to take it as a challenge. So I decided to travel from Lagos to Spain on a visit. Then luckily for me, I'm sure you know him, Rock Klaknik, the Slovenian tourism guy who was the head of UNWTO communication at that time.
Right.
So I wrote to him and I told him of my intention that I wanted to come to Spain and that this was my reason for coming. So he said, well, he has no document to that effect. And I told him, look, I was reliably informed that when we go through the minute of meeting of documents from way back 1965 up to 1975, that we will see it as properly recorded. So he was very patient with me. So I arrived in Madrid and I went to the office on the first day. We tried our luck. We were looking at the minute of meetings. We were looking both French and English, hoping that we would stumble on the document. So behold, on the second day, we stumbled on the French version of the minute of meeting, where it was stated that the African Travel Commission moved the motion for the World Tourism Day celebration, and they were also at the forefront of changing the name from UNWTO to World Tourism Organization. So we now conclude that now that we have the French version, the English version must be somewhere in their storeroom. Then we continue the search. So we continue the search. A day later, we found the English.
Wow.
So they made copies for me, both the French and the English. And they also made a copy for the attention of the then Secretary General of the UNWTO of the World Tourism Organization, Francisco Frangiali, the Frenchman.
Yes, I remember him. Yeah, he's still around. We're still friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who was the head of the UNWTO at that time? So and I came back with the news that eventually we have a document to say a Nigerian proposed a celebration of World Tourism Day. This was the document, and the minister there in Nigeria now asked me, Fanika Ode was the minister there, because, you know, the UNWTO operates from with the ministries, not with the tourism agencies. So I now told him, so Honorable Minister, you need to write to the UNWTO that if now we have this document, can you honor this late activity, because then activity has passed on, you know. So the minister now said he doesn't know what to write, that I should come back the following week. By the following week, I will return to Abuja. He's been replaced by another minister. You know, the way we change ministers in the travel and tourism industry.
Right.
So, and at the end of the day, the new minister embraced the idea. He asked me, do you know what to write? I said, yes. Okay, this is the ministry letterhead. You go and put it together, bring it, we will look at it, then I will sign it, then you know where to send it to them. We keep a copy in the file. That was exactly what I did. So I drafted it. I brought it back for the directors in the ministry to have a look at it. They said it was okay. We took it to the minister. I was there with the minister, Minister Bello Selo Gada. He signed it, and I faxed a copy from Sheraton Abuja to the UNWTO secretariat.
Wow.
Some month later, they now officially wrote to the Nigerian government to say, yes, it is true that they have the record that the Nigerian guy proposed the celebration of World Tourism Day when he was the chairman of African Travel Commission, the story, and they promised to honor him at an event in Madrid. That was 2008. So by 2008, it didn't happen. Then Ghana bidded to host the UNWTO General Assembly World Tourism Day celebration.
I remember that one, yes.
Exactly. So they agreed that it would be a perfect platform to honor him in Africa. And I was at that event in Accra. Of course, they were dealing now between government and UNWTO. And the minister who was represented by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism at that time received the award on behalf of the Nigerian government, because the award was presented straight to the Nigerian government. Then on arrival back in Abuja, I was invited and I was directed to make contact with the Tibis family. Luckily for me, I knew one of the sons very well who is into advertising, and I reached out to him. He was so excited, and himself and his elder brother were invited to Abuja. And I missed a press briefing. The award was finally handed over to the Atibis family.
Wow.
So that was the role I played in all this.
That's
so
the Nigerian book almost, That's amazing.
Yeah, so the Nigerian government also congratulated me, and I was given the sum of 200,000 naira, even though I invested over 200,000 naira, and just as a token to appreciate the role I played. And in that same year, in the ministerial press briefing, the Nigerian government stated there in the document that thanking me for the role I played to ensure that Atibi was honored. So that was my journey into the UNWTO history. And of course, you know very well when the trouble started in Zimbabwe. I was the one that contacted you, that I met the CEO of Zimbabwe Tourism who wanted me to come to Zimbabwe with some journalists from around the world. I went to the BBC. I was in the studio because I used to be their regular guest on issues.
Right. At
the last minute, they turned it down. And I was looking for a better platform that Zimbabwe could use. That was how Turbo News, and we reached out to you. You said you couldn't make it, and you sent your editor-in-chief who was with us in Zimbabwe for 18 days. And you changed the Zimbabwe perspective and stories at the international level. We used the international travel and tourism stories to change Zimbabwe. Yes, then I didn't know Dr. Mzembe, because I was working with the tourism ministry, the tourism agency, the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority, and I took journalists from Nigeria to Zimbabwe, one from South Africa, another, and one from Ghana, and we were in Zimbabwe for 18 days, including Nelson Akatera, your former editor-in-chief, who was with us. And the good job you guys did, and I can boldly say.
Well, we all have a history. I didn't even know that part. I mean, I was in Zimbabwe, and it was really an exciting event. I still remember a lot of this, and I didn't know Walter Mzembe either. Of course, I knew him because he was the minister, but I really didn't. I always tried to get to him, and he never wanted to talk to me. And I know he was there with his wife. I followed him one time in around, and I talked to him for a few minutes. So yeah, different times. And I know the President Mugabe was there. He was speaking at the event, and this was kind of a sensational thing because he was such a controversial figure in the world.
Absolutely. You know, of course, and when we finished, you remember when Nelson returned, you guys did a good job. Then 2 years later or 3 years later, Zimbabwe co-hosted the UNWTO General Assembly meeting at Victoria Falls with Zambia.
Yes.
These were the groundwork that you and I, you using our platform and the media job I did for Zimbabwe, that blossomed to that. And Mzembe was it was not known anywhere in the tourism sector around the world at that time.
Right.
And from there, he became a household name, and we got to where we were, and he ran for the election, which he narrowly lost and all that. You know, so that is just the story about the my involvement and, of course, the history of the UNWTO. I have all the documents here. The documents are within the UN structure.
Yeah, and it's
but however,
when we
Yes, sir.
started this, I don't know, Taleb Rifa was there at the time, and Anita who's now the advisor for the Secretary General at UNWTO from Cape Town, was there. And we started an organization or an initiative, and this was all in Zimbabwe at this event, and it was called the CNN Task Group. And
Absolutely.
and we're the one who really brought CNN into the picture, because Anita didn't know other people, and we started introducing them. And the idea was really, at the end, we're going to get major advertising. I thought, oh, this is great, CNN, you know. CNN did good. Anita wrote excellent articles. She started doing this. We profiled this, and it helped them. But unfortunately, we never got the advertising. I guess everyone is selfish enough.
Absolutely.
We weren't
Absolutely.
part of that, you know.
I know the lady very well. We met a couple of times, and the last time I met her was in the Gambia. I will come into that story. So the problem is, I had to study the history of the UNWTO agency. How do they function? The World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization, the International Organization for Migration. How do they function?
Right.
How do they run their activities? How do they send representatives from the regions? But I now realize that the UNWTO started on a very wrong foot, because Undiaye, who was the African representative there, was there for almost 30 years. It was a career, life-time job for them, which is not so. We're not saying people from the different continents should not work at the UNWTO. They can remain at the director level, but they should not be the one directing what are the interests, political interests, tourism interests of our country. Because the way they have functioned, not just Africa, even Europe, Asia, they take the position as director of Africa, director of Europe, director of Southeast Asia, as if it's their personal business. They don't get back to us in the country and ask us, what do you need? What are the areas of interest? Rather, we just wake up one morning and we read in the papers, sometimes official government paper, that UNWTO has signed an agreement to host a conference in one of our countries. The question we ask, who funds this project? All UN agencies are funded through a budgetary and funding from the maybe World Bank, from IMF, from other donors. That is how some of these UN agencies fund their activities. But we rely on the member nations. Now, for instance, Nigeria say we're hosting an event, or UNWTO said they are coming up with an event. Nigerian government has to pay for their ticket, pay for their accommodation. Come to think of it, what is the role of the UN?
Yeah. No, you definitely have a point. And it's probably not only the UN. If you're in a permanent position with power and this influence, it becomes more and more routine, and you forget really why you're sitting there, you know?
Absolutely. So now the question is, we should be able to function like the World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization, whereby each region, Africa, Europe, Asia, we send a representative every 4 years who serve as a political head and strategist. The country will nominate somebody. So we should have now offices for these 5 continents that represent the interest, rather than the director represent his or her personal interest, as we have seen over the years. I want to say, you are also responsible for the recruitment of the lady from Seychelles as a director for Africa. I have no problem with that, but I can tell you, with my experience in the industry, she does not have our interests at heart, because she doesn't talk to us. I have never seen a UN agency that organized event without the private and the public sector's media.
Right.
All UN agencies, there is nothing they do without the media.
Yeah, and I know you're speaking about, and I know her from the Seychelles when we worked with them before we worked with her in her other position. It's all fun, but I can tell you right now, I haven't talked to her for years. And you know the history between UNWTO and me, and she's probably scared to talk to me. And just on the record, she hasn't talked to me, so she's a good lady, you know. And I don't blame her. It's not like I'm upset about, but it's I don't really know what she's doing. Yeah, it just it is what it is, you know. But I
Yeah,
know she was very excited to move to Madrid. She has her children, little kids she took, and I really hope she's doing well. But you have absolutely point given what you're saying. Yeah.
I can tell you I have nothing personal against her, but I can tell you all the region, they are all disaster. Do you know last few days ago, I was still in the UK. I wanted to cross over from UK to Croatia for the second tourism congress, sport
Right.
tourism congress. Do you know I called the UN Secretariat for a whole month? Nobody, only once my call was taken. I sent email, nobody responded to my email.
No, they don't.
So what kind of a UN agency, even when I called the United Nations headquarters in New York today, somebody will pick my call and somebody will talk to me and give me all the necessary information that I want, or they direct me to the appropriate department. They don't respond to emails. They don't do anything. So we cannot continue to run a tourism organization like the UN.
And you have a very valid point there, because I mean their mandate and the reason they're getting taken, they're an international organization. And not taking phone calls, not responding, I think it's against the mandate they have altogether. I can have the same thing. Maybe mine has different reasons, but Marcelo has not responded to anything ever since Mr. Zurab took over office. So I have not had any phone calls. As a matter of fact, they have banned me to attend their press conferences, specifically at the World Travel Market, where we are an official media partner. And I couldn't attend. They had actually hired a bodyguard who was standing there with my picture, and to make sure I don't get into the ministerial thing. So they're not inclusive in any way. They don't like criticism, and they don't respond to criticism. It's really it became an agency that is working as a under the umbrella of one person who makes this decision. And I guess he can make any decision he wants. And no one really cares. I mean, it is kind of sad, because even when you look at the General Assemblies and the other events they have, the members, many of the ministers, as you rightfully say, change all the time. The new ministers in many countries don't know what the old ministers are doing. So they're sitting there. For them, everything is okay. Only a few of the people, you and I, we know them, they have been around the block and they understand the history. But these people are not powerful enough, or maybe they don't care either, to really change things. So it's an organization that will be led by one person, and everyone will follow almost regardless.
So, Thomas, what do we do? What the way forward? I have an idea of how to move forward, because it is unacceptable.
Lucky you disappeared. I couldn't hear you. Would you mind repeating? You were blank here for a second.
Okay, I said I have an idea on the way forward, how to reach out to them, but now they also have a boss. We have the Secretary General of the UNWTO, the United Nations, who is overall boss of all the.
I'm sorry, are you expecting someone? There's a Ahmed Dollar. Is he knocking on the door to get in?
Please accept them in, whoever comes in.
Okay, all right. Okay, perfect. Okay.
So what I'm saying is that whoever is interested in getting this resolved, we must have the attention of the the Secretary General of the United Nations, and put forward some of these issues that will be deviling of course, the UNWTO. I can see recently the UNWTO were in Nigeria. I was in the same hotel with the secretary lady who is the director for Africa at Radisson Hotel in Lagos. And she saw me and I said, look, can we talk? She jumped away, said, no, I'm busy, because they were in Nigeria to execute a fraudulent conference that the Nigerian government spent money on. The tourism minister in Nigeria has never attended a local tourism event. So we need to reach out to the UNWTO through to the overall boss, which is the UN Secretary General, to lay some of this, our argument that the UNWTO is a perfect institution. As a specialized agency, it must function like other UN agencies, because the structure must change, where you have a representative that will be selected by the continent, each of the continent, to represent them, so that we can have a direction, a situation where you have a director who is a career civil servant at the UN Secretariat. What is paramount to them is their personal interest, not the interest of the overall tourism development and promotion or policy articulation. The UNWTO is just to give, because we believe that through the UN, you can have every country, those that are well advanced, middle, and the low, to come together so that we can learn from those that have been doing it for years, what they have done perfectly very well, and what they have not done very well, and suggest them so that we can learn from each other. That is the essence of the UN. The UNWTO is not a marketing agency. It's not a promotion agency.
Right.
But what the UN has been doing in Africa, they come in the guise of being a promotion and marketing agencies. And you know, some of the African countries too, they like the photo opportunity. When you have a dignity who's coming in, they can reach out to the president, they can get money from their government, they can get picture opportunity with the president, and that's exactly what they are doing. And sadly, it has not been helpful to a lot of African countries. I can tell you, Ghana too, that we have the Secretary of the African Travel Commission there. The private sector and the Ghana Tourism Authority and the ministry, they are not in a working relationship. It's the same thing in South Africa.
And it's probably not only in Africa.
Same chaos in Kenya.
You have the situation exactly in many countries around the world. And as long as you don't have the bigger guys, and I'm talking about the UK, the United States, Canada,
and the rest of them,
to be in the UNWTO, it becomes an exclusive club of the. And I'm not saying this now in a bad way, but of countries that are not necessarily always playing the prime role in tourism. So the agency loses on recognition and acceptance in doing this. So I think if UNWTO, for example, I mean, I'm not the legal part a lot better, but as an outside person, I would think, why would not every country that is a member of the United Nations automatically a member of the UNWTO?
Absolutely. This is what we need to bring to the attention of the UN. Because if you are a permanent member of the Security Council, you are a member of the UNWTO, all agency that has signed up to become a member of the UN automatically becomes a member of the specialized agencies.
Absolutely. And then it would be fair, so because everyone has a voice and you don't really have the excuse, I'm not going to be part of it because of whatever. So if they don't want to be part of it, they're not going to be part of the UN. And no, everyone wants to be part of the UN. So that would probably make the UNWTO also quite a bit more effective. And then when you don't attend the meetings at UNWTO, you just miss the meeting. But you're not saying I'm not part of it.
Absolutely. So that is what we need to do. UNWTO News is the largest, if not one of the largest in the world in terms of news dissemination, the industry affiliation and relationship. We can use our voice to change some of this narration. We can approach the United Nations and say, look, this is our industry. Like you rightly said, you went into that partnership with CNN Tax and the rest of them, thinking that the advertisement would come in, and nothing came in eventually. You understand? But we're not looking for the benefit of getting advertisement alone. We want to leave a legacy that in the next 10, 15 years, the same way I fought for the Nigerian man or the African guy who was a person that muted the idea of the World Tourism Day, and he was honored. I want my name to be recorded in such a positive manner. Just the same way UNWTO News will be remembered for the rest of our generation to come, to say, look, there was a news platform that was so powerful, so influential around the world. That is the kind of legacy I want to leave. But the legacy we will leave is that the children will ask, so what impact does that have, or their role have on the tourism industry worldwide? When Taleb came in, Taleb was a little bit more reserved. I remember several times that we attend this press briefing at the World Travel Market in London or at the ITB in Berlin. So he would say, oh, you, this African man, you criticize us and all that. And there was this argument back and forth because they were not doing the right thing. And unfortunately, Zurab came now, and Zurab He's run. So the point is, this guy came and is running his own show the way he feels. The UNWTO is not a personal business of one secretary general. You are there to represent the entire affiliate members and, of course, the entire member of the United Nations.
Right.
Because it's specialized. Since 2003, that the UN, the World Tourism Organization became a specialized agency of the World Tourism, as institutional travel and tourism industry. It becomes a public properties, and every media organization must have access to what they do.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Exactly. We clap for them when they do well, and when they don't do well, we ask the necessary questions. Like you said, Marcelo, who was a former producer or whatever with the BBC and the rest of them, should know this. But unfortunately, he acted as someone who had never worked or had never had any relationship with the media. Sometimes you send him a mail, he doesn't respond to your mail, even in a whole year or 2-3 years. It's so sad. Yes. This is not the kind of UNWTO that we want, and things must change. And we must also continue to educate our new ministers who are coming in. And that is why I said we should have the discussion and see what we can achieve.
Yeah, no, Lucky, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, changes are necessary, and we all knew that and I know that's why way back when we started talking a little bit more, we were fighting to get Walter Memzebi into the position. And I think I was just today reading through his positioning papers, and I'm saying, I'm so impressed. I mean, we should really publishing, and I don't know if you have it, I'll be happy to forward it to you. When you go one by one, what he wanted to get achieved, and now we see where UNWTO is today and what they did get achieved, you see literally where this organization is really going. And it's sad because now we're coming out of the worst crisis ever in travel and tourism, out of COVID. And it's important that these organizations are functioning. And it's not only UNWTO, there is a lack of leadership on global associations. I mean, our friends at WTTC try hard, but even there it has been quite a bit more quiet for whatever reason. PATA is without a chairman right now. They're looking for someone. So the leadership we had before, also on the private sector, seems to be lacking. And it should be the opposite right now. I will not let that person in, so I don't know who that is, but
please don't.
It. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think if there is a way to influence this, count me in. There may not be a way, because right now, for the last few years, had been just ignoring on the part of UNWTO, but it needs to go a different route. And of course, everyone has only so many hours a day to do that. But it's probably worth it. And also I can see there could be some support we didn't have before in making others realize the same issue that you just laid out very well.
Yeah, Thomas, like you rightly said, yes, the way out is we would agree and maybe think over it in the next 1 week so that we can do a letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations, highlighting some of this frustration. What we are straightening out is not personal, it's just the obvious reason where if the media all over the world are after government doing the necessary things and the good things they promise. So therefore, the UNWTO has no option. We'll draw the attention of the Secretary General of the United Nations to read through a letter, and I'm very sure they will revert back and we will get things going and questions will be asked. I don't know the current chairman of the affiliate members, and of course the chairman of the council, who are the council members at the moment. We can copy them, and of course through your platform and my other platform, we can reach out to every member that this is the letter we have sent to the United Nations, and we copy the UNWTO Secretary General himself so that he will know that we have written to the UN headquarters to say, look, things are not properly done, and kind of a restructuring of the UNWTO is necessary at this time.
Yeah, and I do even better when we have the letter. If you can get it and we can get it together before June 21st, what shouldn't be so difficult. I will be in New York and I can hand deliver it and take some pictures so we have some proof that we actually delivered it. I'd be happy to do that.
Fantastic, fantastic, Thomas. I'll do a draft, send to you, you vet it, you add and you remove. Then when the letter is ready, we can forward it. We have a name. Don't forget, I'm also an award-winning journalist. I'm the first Nigerian journalist to have won the highest European Union Journalism Award, the Lorenzo
Wow.
Natali Prize for journalism, for journalists reporting human rights and development in way back 2006. So I have a name, and of course, the European Unions, some of their members who are members of the UNWTO, we copy all the regional body, the African Union, the OECD, we copy the European Commission and all that. Let them know that, yeah, the UNWTO at the moment is derailing, and we need to put it right.
Absolutely. Count me in, and it's really always a pleasure to get your enlightening comments. And I know, you know, for more years than I think we both wanted to have it true, and you've always been amazing, you know.
Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. What you do, please kindly edit the video and forward back so that we can rebroadcast it on our platform.
And I cut the two scenes out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. All right, like it was good talking to you.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you
soon.
for all the good jobs you've done for the travel and tourism industry.
Same to you.
Like I told you yesterday when we spoke that you have more readers of your platform here than all the local media.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And you too. I mean, everyone knows Lucky, you know,
thank
so
you.
take care.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
That's it.